Welcome to Motherhood from the Brain, a podcast guiding moms of preteen girls on how to navigate emotional challenges that are not addressed in school. We share real stories, expert advice, and brain-based methods for handling tough moments. Discover insights to create a deeper connection with your preteen and improve your motherhood journey. Let's tackle the uncharted territory of parenting together. Hosted by professional certified coach, Esther Babazi.
Before we begin, I want to share a brief disclaimer. I am not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or any other licensed mental health professional. On this podcast, Motherhood and the Brain, I share what has personally helped me improve my mental and emotional well-being. My hope is that by sharing my experiences, I might help even one mother out there who is struggling. Welcome back to the Motherhood and the Brain podcast, episode number 32. My name is Esther Mbabazi, your host. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss the topic that many of us have either experienced, or we are going through it, or we know somebody who is going through it. And today's episode is about when your parenting style or your mothering style is different from your spouse's or the father of your preteen's style of parenting or raising children. This is something that I still struggle with even today. I have received so much coaching, a ton of coaching around this subject. It has gotten better, way better. In fact, I recognize that I'm not where I used to be, but still there is a long way to go. I don't know, maybe it's a journey, maybe there's no destination, I don't know. But this is a very, very touchy subject for me. So let me give an example. Maybe your husband or the father of your children or your boyfriend gives your preteen sugary drinks, pop, soda stuff, and you don't agree with him giving your preteen sugar or allowing your preteen to have sugary drinks or ice cream stuff. Of course, you have brought this up to him. You have addressed it in every way possible you can. And it seems like nothing is changing. Or maybe nothing is changing. You feel defeated. You think, I'm defeated. And then you feel resentment. And when you feel resentment, you stew in anger. You wish he would do things differently. You lecture your kids about sugar, how bad sugary drinks are for them. You beat yourself up. You think there's something wrong with you since you cannot get your husband, father of your children, or your boyfriend, or whatever. You can't get them to see your side, so you think there's something wrong with you. Why can't you get this right? All the things that we do. You move away from them and go and sit in a corner and feel bad about yourself. So, like I said, many of us, me myself included, want husbands, fathers of our children to do things the same way that we do them. But when we examine this slightly deeper, it is because our brain thinks that we will feel better if the husbands, the spouses, the baby daddies, the boyfriends, the stepdads, if they did things the way that we wanted them to do things, we would feel better. Our brain thinks that if they complied with what we asked them to do, we will feel better. Because as human beings, we expect people to do things the way we want them to do them, so we feel differently. In coach speak, we call this a manual. We walk around with manuals in our heads. Somehow, we expect people in our lives to know about those manuals and follow our manuals. We want people in our lives to do as we say. So let's say your husband went out with the children or kids and he gave them sugary drinks, which you don't like one bit. Like I said earlier, because you have tried to talk to him, to talk to the kids, nothing is working. So you think you are defeated. And when you think you are defeated, you feel resentment. The resentment is coming from you thinking that you are defeated. This is where the coaching work starts. We take a moment and we become curious about what it means to be defeated in this particular situation. We ask ourselves why we think that is. Why do we think we are defeated? What does it even mean to be defeated in this particular situation? Where do you think this is coming from? Like, where this thing of your husband not complying to what you ask and you relating it to being defeated, like, where is that coming from? Let us say you are defeated. Let us agree with your brain that you are defeated. What does that look like for you? If you describe it, if somebody came and did not understand your language, how would you make them understand that you are defeated because you think you're defeated because your husband gave the kids sugary drinks? And what are you making it mean? Because when you see yourself as defeated, it means you're making it mean something about you. And what is that as a mother, as a person? What is that? What does defeated have to do with you? Think about it. What you want your husband to do, and think, if he did that, if he were to do that, what would happen to you? What would you feel? How would you feel? What would you think if he, let us go to the land where he complied with your rules and did not give the kids sugary drinks? What would that make you feel, and why? The thing is, you can't control what your husband says or does, but you can control how you think, what you think about, how you feel, and how you show up in your life, regardless of the sugary drinks. Your spouse, father of your children, your boyfriend, stepdad to your kids, is a human being with his own agency, free will. He is parenting the way he knows how, the same way you are parenting the best way you know how. Take a moment to consider, what if it's possible? What if there's a slight chance, a teeny tiny chance, that it's possible that your kids, your preteens, will benefit from growing up with two parents who have different parenting approaches? Just think about that. Because you have tried to get him on board and nothing has worked. It's only creating resentment. You are thinking you're defeated and you feel resentful. So what if there's a teeny tiny chance that maybe this could be a good thing for your preteen to experience? Having two parents, two parental figures in her life, on his life, who do things differently, who do not necessarily do the same thing or agree on the same thing. What if it is possible that this is good for them? These are all questions you can sit down and write and ponder about. And let us just say you are not defeated. If you did not think that you were defeated, what does your brain imagine would be different? Because as human beings, many times we just assume what we are thinking is true without checking in on why we think that. So your brain presents you with a sentence, I'm defeated, and you believe that sentence. So if you take time and ask your brain, why? Because when you believe something is true, as human beings, when we believe that something is true, our brains will go out there to find evidence to support what we believe. In this situation here, when you believe that you are defeated because you have tried to speak to your husband, the father of your children, about giving sugary drinks to the children, how they are not good for them, and all these things. When you believe that because he's not doing what you asked, therefore you are defeated, when you believe that sentence of I am defeated, your brain is going to use your spouse's actions to prove to you that you are right. When we believe a sentence, when we have a sentence in our heads, a thought is a sentence that we have in our brains. So when you have a thought that I am defeated, your brain is going to go out there and find evidence for you to back up that sentence. And in this case, your spouse's actions. The brain is going to present you your spouse's actions as a way to prove to you that you are defeated. So, when your brain presents you with a sentence, you can sit down with that sentence and show yourself the facts versus your interpretations of the situation. So in this case, your husband, the father of your children, their stepdad, went out with them and bought them sugary drinks, which you don't like. We have established that. That is a fact. Your husband bought your preteens, your kids, sugary drinks. That is a fact. That is something that happened out there. And the way you are interpreting that situation is leading you to think that you are defeated. Somehow, you are interpreting his actions to mean something about you. And this is where our work is. Why? Maybe your spouse doesn't understand your reasoning behind what you're doing. How does this mean something about you to think that you are defeated? Maybe your husband, the father of your children, has a totally different approach. Like I said, he has different ideas and preferences. Maybe this is how he was brought up. Maybe this is how he grew up. He grew up on sugary drinks. Maybe he's just repeating what he grew up with. How do you take that and make it mean that you are defeated? You see how our brain leads us astray in the trenches? As human beings, you and me and the next person, anybody who has a human brain, our default is always to assume that if another human being has a different thought in their head than we do, then that is somehow a problem. And this demonstrates it very well. Your husband does not agree with your choices, or you don't agree with his choices, and now it is a problem. This is how the brain works. This is what the brain does. But what if we all had or have differing ideas and preferences, and none of that is inherently better than any others? What if all that matters is that you like your reasoning while you're making the choices you're making, and your husband gets the same pass to like his reasoning and the preferences he's making? What if we just let things like that? As human beings, we usually jump to conclusions like I'm defeated because it is a part of us, because somewhere, somehow in our brain, somewhere buried in our psyche, because we do not trust ourselves. Otherwise, if you trusted your own choices and decisions and things, maybe you wouldn't think that. How can you support your own decisions and choices? How can you have your own back? What would you like to think about your spouse's decisions? When your spouse gives your preteen sugary drinks, what would you like to think about that? What would you like to think about his decisions and choices and parenting style? Because you get to choose that. We get to choose that, even though in the heat of the moment, it seems like we don't get to choose that, but we do. We always have a choice. We always do. Let me go back. When you have a sentence like I'm defeated, when you make what your husband is doing when you interpret your husband's actions in a way that leads you to think that you are defeated, deep down, somewhere in the psyche, it means that you secretly doubt your choices or your parenting abilities. So it is easier for you to recognize stuff like that when your husband gives sugary drinks and you think you're defeated, and your brain presents you with the thought you are defeated. I'm defeated. When you think I'm defeated because you have tried to talk to him and he won't change and he won't stop giving the drinks to the kids, when you think that you're defeated and you believe that you're defeated, because there's a difference between thinking something and believing it, because the brain will present you with all these thoughts. Like thoughts are like rain. They keep falling depending on where we grew up and how we were brought up. Our environment impacts our thinking. Thoughts are coming down and falling like rain. And one thought sticks. Like, it is always good to go behind. I understand if you're a beginner, it's a little hard to do this, but you can train yourself. So when a thought like I'm defeated presents itself, you don't just dismiss it. You get curious. This is what I did in the beginning of the episode. We sit down and ask questions to try to pull it apart to see what is really going on here. And most likely, like I said, you are doubting the choices that you make. That is why you believe it. This sounds like like being delusional or something, but trust me, it is not. When you doubt yourself, when you don't believe in yourself, when you don't have your own back, it is easy for you to believe sentences that your brain throws at you. It is very easy for you to believe them. But if you are safe and secure and you have your backing in your own choices, what your husband does doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What your husband does or doesn't know, it doesn't matter. And when that thought presents itself, because it will, because you're a human being with a brain, when a thought like I'm defeated presents itself, or it passes by, or it comes through a screen door and comes to you, you just look at it and say, oh, there it is again. There you go again. I see you, brain, but I am not going that way. That is my husband. He's a grown person. What he's doing has nothing to do with me. I mean, you have tried to talk to your husband about sugary drinks, and I don't know. Don't children like sugary drinks? Is it a crime to give kids sugary drinks? Isn't it normal for kids to drink sugary drinks? Like, what is the big deal? I mean, you have to question all that. The point here is to look at what your brain is presenting you and become curious, not judgmental, just curious. Don't judge yourself for thinking what you're thinking. You just become curious and sit with it and pull it apart and see what is really going on here. Where am I not supporting myself? Why am I believing that I'm defeated? Is it because of my own choices? And when you start to become curious, you feel the resentment release. Because in this situation, if you feel resentful, you will feel the resentment starting to disappear, release. Maybe it won't. Sometimes coaching does not work immediately. Self-coaching does not work immediately. It takes time. I have coached myself on a few things. I remember there's a time I was coached on something that I didn't know I even had. Like, it was something deep. I didn't know it even existed. I didn't even understand. But I think around the third month after that coaching session, I felt my heart enlarge. Like, that's what we call it sometimes. You feel your heart expand. Like, the coaching worked 3 months after I had that session, because this thing was too deep for me. I could not see it clearly. But all of a sudden, I just woke up one day and everything was light. So if you think that you are defeated because of your husband's choices, you need to examine that sentence and see why you are making it that, why you are making it make something about you. It is his choices. It has nothing to do with you. His decisions, his choices. And to be honest, when you criticize your husband or your spouse in this situation, it sends a signal that you know better. You know you know what's best for your kids. You know better what is for your, you know what is better for your kids. And I don't think your husband or spouse or father of your children will appreciate that, because nobody wants to feel like they are doing it wrong. There is no parenting manual out there. There is no book on how to be the best parent. There is no perfect parent. We are all just trying to figure out this whole thing called motherhood or parenting. Thank you so much for listening today. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Your time means the world to us. If you found this episode valuable, we would be immensely grateful if you could spare a moment to visit Apple Podcasts and share your thoughts through a review. Your feedback plays a vital role in helping fellow moms discover our podcast and enrich their own motherhood experiences. Take care, and bye for now.